Hello, this is the second episode of this series. If you have not watched the first one, you definitely should watch it, and I will put a link in the description in the first comment. But basically, I am going to show you a detailed way of how to black border every map and good strategies and tips along the way. So for this episode, I'm going to be going over the mid game. So this is round 41 through 80. It's quite a lot of rounds, but they all kind of come right together in the mid game. And basically, in the mid game, our goal is to kind of save up. So let's go over some of the rounds here. Round 43 is a pretty dense round with the ceramics. Round 45, first camo purples, and round 49 is also a very dense round. There are no Moabs in between these rounds, with 50 being the first one to have Moabs. And usually these ones are pretty easy, but they can actually be very difficult on the harder maps. Round 51, we have camo ceramics, and then round 55 is kind of a pretty dense wave of ceramics, 3 each, the last one being bigger, and then the Moab at the end, that's nothing. 57, this round has a lot of Moabs, and then the next round that we're going to be looking at is 59 with the camo leads. And then after that, we have the BFB on 60, and then the big one that everybody seems to talk about and champ on being the hardest round. Well, actually, after this round, 62 with the purple rush. But then we have 63, which is a lot of ceramics, and you need a lot of pures to kill this. And this is kind of what stumps a lot of people, and I will be going over the ways to counter that. After that, round 64, if you're good at the game, you know this round is extremely hard. Then after that, we kind of take a big jump way up to 75 because the rounds in between are very easy. Round 75 just has a ton of stuff. It's very annoying. Round after that, it's 76 with the camo ceramic rush. Well, not camo, regrowth ceramic rush. And then 78 with the ceramic and regrowth ceramic rush. 79 just has a lot of regrowths. This round isn't usually hard, but there are 2 fortified BFBs at the end, so some strategies might struggle with it. And then the last round of these rounds is 80 with the ZUMG. That is quite the mouthful, but let's get on. So as you can see, I'm starting off from the early game that we did in the last video with the ninja start. And like again, I'm going to be showing some strategies for mid game, not all of them, but these are some of the most effective strategies that can help you out the most. So this one is the Avatar of Wrath, and the whole goal of mid game, this will be a common thing that you'll see, is that we aren't going to be getting our big damage tier 5 towers just yet, but we are going to be saving up for that. And during all of these rounds, there's going to be some struggle rounds, and we're going to have to kind of find of ways to counter that and be able to beat those while at the same time saving up. So basically, for this one, we usually do a pop list mid game. Some people do like an avatar of the Sun Avatar mid game, which I don't really get because pop lists do actually work really well. And like before, I was looking at the discounts. We are going to be utilizing discounts, and this is something that you definitely should use because it saves a lot of money. So for beginners, I definitely recommend placing down the 000 towers. That's why I placed down all 6 druids, because it's much easier to get these villages in afterwards. So we get the discount villages, we get them with range, and as you can see, these druids now have the discount effect on them. And then we can save the one village that will cover everything, because we'll later have to get MIB on that guy. So it's good to pre-plan and know that you'll have to do that so that all of these guys can pop lead and stuff. Now I'm kind of speeding it up because after that we have everything down, we're ready to go, and now we can upgrade the druids. Now I did have to wait a lot of rounds because I was getting the villages up, and they're kind of expensive, even though they'll profit off later. Sometimes you might have to upgrade the druids a little bit beforehand, especially if it's on a harder map, but usually the Bloon Jitsu with Alchemist will just carry right through, and then you can get the discount villages and upgrade the rest of your stuff. And then also with this combo of the 6 druids, so every single pop list gets a 5-stack buff. I'm also going to get an Alchemist, a 401, and then I also upgrade the other one to 401, just so that we can evenly spread out the buff around all the towers. This also is probably a good time to explain the difference between 400, 401, 420 alk. Basically, if you have one or two very fast attacking towers, you're going to want to get 420 because it kind of gives a bigger buff to one tower. If it's kind of like a slow attacking tower, just like if you have one Bloonjitsu, for example, 400 is all you need. You don't have to waste money. And if you're doing something like this, where we have multiple towers, and same with the subcomm strategy that we'll look at later, 401 is better because it kind of evenly spreads out the buff. Now with that, we have Oban and all of our druids, and this will clear, as you can see, round 63 very easily, and it clears all of the other rounds very easily too. So this is a very good strategy for mid-game, and it will go right through, and this will save it right to the Avatar Raft. So now this is where I kind of want to explain that you kind of have to save up, and the mid-game is an exceptionally good time to save up because there aren't many hard rounds. You'll be getting a lot of money, and it's really a bad thing if you're in chimps and you're trying to save up for your damage towers like in the 80s, late 80s or 90s. It just really won't work out well, and you want to kind of take advantage of when these rounds are easier and you're stacking up cash to do it. So now round 79, I'm kind of skipping forward a bit because the mid game does have a lot of rounds and I'm not going to be showing them all. So I'm just going to be showing some of like the harder rounds and then the victory, and that's that. Also, Oban, if you're going to be using this strategy, you should use Oban. It's very easy to use. Some people will want to use Gwen, but doing the MIB skipping is not something that a beginner player should kind of deal with, and that's that. So now on for this example, like again last time, this one was another one showed in the early game. It's the subcomm, and we will be doing the sub spam. I did not bring a good hero for this one. When I was recording that other video, I thought I would just be like redoing the runs, but no, I have Jones for some reason, and you do not want to use Jones. So normally for this, I would use Brickle or Pat Fusty. I think Pat Fusty works better, but some people like using Brickle. And then we get the villages to buff the subs. If you have no places to put multiple villages, just do one 230 village and it will work out well. But for this example, I can cram in some space, so I get the 2 discounts, and then I also get the 230 village so that we can get the drums and we can get the MIB later. But because of the intel property, I don't need camo just yet. So what I end up doing is getting like that back dart just to get camo, just to be safe. And then the thing about this one is that we want to start saving up when round 49 hits, because what I'm going to be doing is saving up to get the sub commander earlier, so that we get sub commander right before 63 and we're fine against 63, which is really useful. And then right after that we can place a few more subs so we can guarantee to beat like 78 and 76, stuff like that. And then that will give us a decent amount of cash saved up after that. So now round 49 hits, we get that. Also something just to note, you do want to upgrade that sniper that we got for round 28 to 110, so round 59 is not an issue. And also something that I do is upgrade that alchemist to 401, just because we're going to be buffing more than one tower at the end of the day. Now, as you can see, after I get subcomm, it's round 63 is very easy, and then we can just place down more subs. You want to do them all in range of that village that will be an MIB later, so they can kill the DDTs. But once you get that, you're good. You don't have to spend the rest of the money to beat the other rounds. If you're going for like a full-on subcomm spam strategy, you want to like upgrade them, and if you have more space, you want to get more subs and stuff. But sometimes it's actually a pretty good idea to have a sub commander with a few subs and then another tower, but we'll look into that when we do the late game. So I'm just going to be doing a save up. You can part different ways, but we will look at those examples in the late game. And also, while I have a little bit of time, I want to bring up a point that for the mid game, we want to have a consistent way to carry into the late game. Unlike the early game, where you can do like a different different early game that won't carry into mid-game or late game. You don't really lose much money from that, but when we're doing the mid-game, we're going to have to be saving up, so it's very important that we have something that goes into the mid-game. You can do examples where that is not true, but just to keep it very easy and very simple, I'm going to be avoiding doing that. So next one, we have the Spillway one. So this will be a strategy that works well on Spillway, and I'm using Etienne for this example. You don't really have to use Etienne because we're going to be doing like a pod one, and because of that, you normally would want to get camo on that ace for round 42, but with Etienne you don't have to worry about that. But again, sometimes you might not be using Etienne because this pod one is kind of like an oddball where you can pretty much do anything. You can do like a strategy with Shredder where Etienne would be pretty good, or you can do like a strategy with some Maulers after that where Jones would be better. So I'm just getting camo detection on that village for round 42 just because you might not have Etienne. So that's that. But if you are using Etienne, you don't need camo detection on that village, which is pretty cool. So now for the pod, we're going to be going straight for it. Much like Subcomm, we're saving up. This time, like, towards the end of 49 works pretty well. We alch buff it, and that will save straight up into the pod before 63, and will be very good. Also, something to note for pod crosspath, if you're kind of like in this issue that I am, where we have a bunch of obstacles in the way, using the 205 is better, but if you don't have obstacles in the way, the wall of fire is very good and you should get it. It does a lot of damage and it can help out, especially in the mid, and it also does some work in the late game, which is pretty cool. So if you do the Never Miss early game that I showed in the last episode, it's very clean. It does enough mob damage to kill that BFB, and it goes straight into the pod, and you might have to use your Etienne UCAV here and there, but late game is very good, and it has a nice 40,000 save up, which is very good. Next one, we're going to be going on to Infernal, and this is the Apache Prime one. So this one was kind of messy, I have to admit. As said before, you want to use your hero to get the camo detection, so Etienne gives the camo detection so we don't have to get camo on that village, which saves some money. And I'm going to be doing in this example a pre-80 prime, which you don't see that commonly anymore, but honestly it's not that bad. I kind of went overboard with like getting it so early. I did not have to get it very early, and you can see that at the end I have enough money to place like 2 Moab Maulers, which helps out a lot. So normally what you would do is that you would just get the Alchemist buff 420 on the Apache, and then you can get 2 Moab Maulers on the side to help like deal damage to more mobs, obviously. And then you want to use your Etienne UCAVs around. For the Etienne UCAV, if you're doing an easier map, you don't really have to do this timing and stuff. You can place down like Soda and like use the abilities. It's very easy to do. But if you're doing this on some of the harder maps, because this strategy is used for like Geared and Infernal, you want to use these specific timings with Etienne, which is very important. And also you can use the drone swarm ability around on these harder rounds. But for the Etienne UCAV timing, it's around the end of round 75, so it carries over to 76, then the very start of 78. In this recording, I forget to do that, and so I have to go back, which you should remember to do that because it's pretty important. But you just do it at the very start of 78, so you get it back for the second wave of 78. So those 2 waves are cleared pretty easily, and then you can just use it at like the end of 79 just to be safe. And then if you buy the 2 Mob Maulers early, it works out pretty well. As you can see in the example here, it gets kind of close, but that's because I was pretty lousy with the ability timing and not buying the Mob Maulers earlier. But we do end up getting the Apache Prime before round 80, and once you get that, it completely destroys the late game. It's not even close. There are some different mid-games that you can do, like the OC Apache, which will get the Apache Prime round 84. I like to do that one a lot. It's very good too. I think in general it's a bit easier to do, especially for the harder maps where you're kind of like figuring out with this kind of stuff. But a lot of people will also tell you to do Pod Prime, which I have not really liked because you get it so late, like round 87 late. But if you're doing this on like a beginner map, it's not much to worry about, and you don't really have to like worry about these timings and different mid games. You can just place down a good hero and it will breeze through everything very easily. As you can see, 78 again, very bad UCAV timing, but anyways, it does not matter. We'll get the Apache Prime around about here, but as you can see, I kind of went overboard and I went a little bit past it, but get the 2 mob maulers. It will be very safe and very consistent, and you'll get your Apache Prime right before round 80, which is very good. This one especially is a big save up, and once you get used to big save ups, the chimps is much easier because you can have really big towers going into the late game to kind of just destroy it up. Now the next one I'm going to be doing is Sun Avatar, and yes, I do have that much XP on Super Monkey, but the 302 Sun Avatar can beat up mid-game pretty well, especially with Pat Fusty, and kind of like the Apache Prime, we're going to be using Pat Fusty's abilities to buff the Sun Avatar up on certain rounds and certain timings to make the mid-game pretty easily, especially on some of these shorter track maps. It works out really well, and it does have a big save up. So for this one, we are doing 3 discount villages, and yes, 3, because it saves a ton of money. It's a really expensive tier 3 tower, so even if you just have this Sun Avatar alone without even any crosspats, you'll be saving money on this guy. It's really good. So we get the discounts early as possible, and then we'll get this base Super Monkey, crosspat the Alk on it, and then we're going to be using the abilities on round 47, 49 for these starter rounds when we don't really have many crosspats up, and then we'll get the Plasma and the knockback with Camo, so that will breeze through everything very good, and then we'll be able to get the Sun Avatar before 63. We're going to beat the first 2 rounds of 63, roar the 3rd round because the 3rd round is bigger and you need help on that. Then after that, on round 76, we roar, and then both waves of 78, we also roar, and then for round 80, you hug the Moab, roar the insides, and bam, you have a really nice save up. This one, it looks kind of taunting, especially with like the villages and a lot of roaring, but it's really very easy, and on the beginner maps you don't really even need to use a hero or time any abilities, and it will go straight into your other towers that you want really well. So again, kind of like the pod, there is not really a defined strategy that you have to take the Sun Avatar into. It's kind of like a big save up and can do pretty much anything, although I would recommend doing something that works well with Pat or doing Perma Spike, because the Sun Avatar Pat Fusty is actually a really good RBE cut, and you can beat many maps with Pats that have Perma Spike very easily, from like Dark Castle to Mesa. They're basically free wins. So that's really good, and we'll get Sun Avatar, go over the timings, and it's really free, and that is that. So while this run is finishing up, I would like to remind you that I do have a Discord server, and if you need any help from me specifically, I would be glad to help you out and talk with you. And also, I have a really cool bot in there, the Quincy bot, that can give you a ton of stats for any tower and will help you out tremendously. Also, if you want to check out the rest of the series, I will put it in the first pinned comment, and that will be able to help you out, especially I'll be doing more videos like this, and also I will be just doing more useful videos later on, like guides and stuff, so you can subscribe to check that out. Anyways, goodbye, and I hope you enjoy, and I hope you also get a ton of black borders. And now there's this really awkward part at the end where I had more footage than I had to talk over with. So, yeah, this is cool and awkward. Yep, bye. And then there's going to be another minute of silence.